So without further ado, I think let's dive into what is a really, really cool list of questions today, I have to say. The first directed to both of you, so please answer in any order. How do you view the recent Bitcoin ETF approvals in the United States and their potential impact on the crypto industry in 2024?
So first of all, I think this is a very big news for the entire crypto industry in terms of regulatory clarity and also in terms of attract to the talent and also for the reputation of the whole industry. Because like when I first started getting into crypto industry in around like 2012, everybody is talking about Bitcoin ETF actually at that time. So I think Winkova's brother was the first one try to apply like Bitcoin ETF, and I heard like lots of people talking about like Bitcoin ETF, even when Bitcoin was only $1. And after like 11 years, after Bitcoin increased from like $1 to 40K like US dollars finally, right? So we got Bitcoin approval by SEC. So I believe this is a huge milestone, and also I think this provide a tons of the institutional legitimacy to everyone around the globe. I will say because the regulation in United States set a very important example for like China, Hong Kong, Korea, Japan, like basically Europe, like everywhere. So that's why I believe once US approved Bitcoin ETF, the whole crypto regulatory environment changed completely now. I'm expected to see like even China will take more like positive steps towards crypto after Bitcoin ETF approved. So that's why I believe actually the one commission in SEC board actually changed everything. Because we know, right, this time Bitcoin ETF is also passed by like 3 to 2 vote basically. So crypto like vote basically have one vote is Gary Gensler, right? So he voted for approval of the ETF. So I believe this vote really like changed the whole ecosystem completely.
No, I completely agree with Justin. I think that, first of all, it gives that sense of legitimacy, but beyond the legitimacy that it offers the cryptocurrency industry, I think it also provides logistical infrastructure for people to actually invest as well, right? I think that beyond just being able to invest in crypto, now there are a bunch of these institutional managers who not only get the okay to invest in crypto because the regulator has said that it's okay with the Bitcoin ETFs, but rather they can now actually do it, right? Because they can get it through a brokerage. They can get it through a BlackRock or a Fidelity or one of these other large financial institutions, because a lot of these funds and a lot of these institutional investors, despite the fact that they have a lot of AUM and they manage a lot of money, that doesn't necessarily mean that they even know how to buy Bitcoin physically, right? They might not be able to hold spot Bitcoin or have their own private keys or know how to use Coinbase custody, but they definitely know how to buy ETFs, right? Because that's what they know what to do. They know how to invest in the stock market, they know how to buy ETFs, and they know how to trade positions within a brokerage account. And so this actually opens the door from a logistical perspective for people to invest significantly more easily as well, especially for those institutional investors who perhaps are not as technically capable.
No, absolutely right. I think sort of the key points that we've touched on there is, on the one hand, legitimacy and credibility that's been provided by ETF approval, and also, Miguel, as you touched upon, accessibility and effectively what is the ultimate form of friction reduction when it comes to being exposed to Bitcoin. I suppose just as a small follow-up question, would you guys go as far to say that this is the biggest single milestone or development in blockchain history?
So first of all, I believe lots of people actually underestimate it. Even though, I mean, in price-wise, we still see like Bitcoin increase around 25 like to 30%, right? Because of the ETF impact, but still I believe we actually underestimated the approval of Bitcoin ETF. Because even though, I mean, today everybody we see SEC is like very slow in terms of the regulation, it's very conservative, and everybody believe they are like way far behind of the innovation. But still, SEC sees as a regulatory example, or they are like pioneer in terms of in the regulation perspective, and all the regulators around the globe sees SEC as one of the most advanced regulators in the world, actually. So that's why I think the SEC attitude affects lots of the regulation actually in China, in Hong Kong, in Singapore, in Dubai, like in Europe, even in Africa, and all the regulators. Because I go to those places all the time, right? When I talk to the regulators, they just told me like we just copy like U.S. regulation like right away, right? Just like most of the country probably copy U.S. Constitution, right? So they just copy U.S. regulation right away. So that's why if U.S. don't give the clarity, if you depends on those countries to have innovative regulation on their own, it's unrealistic. So that's why I think the actually SEC approval of the ETF paved the way for all the countries in the world embrace on cryptocurrency. So that because I see lots of the debate, about crypto regulation in like Panama, because like TRX is also involved, in lots of like Mid East country, like all of them, like they have like no connection or even no like culture similarity compared to United States. But in terms of their financial and the virtual currency regulation, they all sees like what US is doing. So that's why I believe after this regulation approval, cryptocurrency finally is like get the approval of the world. Right, I definitely like super bullish about the next 4 years of the cryptocurrency like development, and I believe more U.S. will not be the only country. More and more country will approve like Bitcoin ETF, and also will eventually make Bitcoin fully like legit in those countries.
No, you touched on a very, very interesting point about sort of the precedent-setting power of U.S. regulators, yes, and this idea of, Chair Gensler and the SEC as an innovator, right, when it comes to digital regulations. Obviously not one we hear an awful lot, but very, very interesting nonetheless.
Yes.
To move on, I would ask a question to Miguel directly. Now, obviously, since ETF approval, we've all been looking at the on-chain flows to varying degrees. It seems like every day there's a different article about GBTC outflows. Are they being offset by the other 9 ETF issuers at the moment? From your unique positioning, what is the story that you've seen regarding, sort of the on-chain flows around the ETF launches so far?
Well, one of the reasons why blockchain analytics is so important is because it functions as an alternative data source to the filings that are provided by the stock market or by the brokers or by the people who hold the actual ETF. So every day, on the Bloomberg terminal, there's people sitting around and waiting for the latest release or the latest filing about how much, has actually been purchased or what the volumes of the ETF were on the previous day or things like this. But the amazing thing about blockchain analytics is that you can actually look at the flows in real time, right? So there's plenty of people now who are using Arkham in order to see how much Bitcoin is in the possession of all of these different entities, BlackRock and Fidelity and Van Eck and Bitwise and all of the other ones. There are these entities on Arkham where you can just, look in real time to see how much Bitcoin they actually hold and how that corresponds to the ETF. And so from a blockchain analytics perspective, what we've seen is many more people going from looking at the Bloomberg terminal, going from waiting for news from these different custodians and instead just analyzing the blockchain themselves so that they know ahead of time, how much cryptocurrency is actually inside of these ETFs. And additionally, of course, people have been monitoring Grayscale. They've been looking at all of the grayscale Bitcoin to see what the outflows look like into other sorts of things in order to try to determine selling, and therefore if they think the price is going to go down or not, right? And over the past week, we've seen a lot of price movement to the downside, but I think over the past 2 days, we've also noticed a bit of a recovery as those flows from grayscale have slowed down significantly, right? Like today, yesterday, they're about, they're less than half the size than they were the week before. And so I think as a whole, people are starting to get much more comfortable with using on-chain analytics as a kind of trading or risk management strategy.
That's really, really cool. I think a point that not enough people touch upon, right, which is the idea that blockchain data and the ways that we have at the moment to access it, Arkham intelligence being a key one, actually has some really key advantages over the sort of traditional Bloomberg terminal model where the data has to flow through centralized parties. So very, very cool there. Now a question directly for Justin, given that we're very, very lucky to have him on today. What do you anticipate around crypto usage within the TRON ecosystem in particular, and how do you see it evolving over, say, the next 12 months, for instance?
Yes, definitely. So first of all, I think the USDT and the stable coins on TRON grow dramatically in last year. So we see right now the total market cap of USDT on TRON has surpassed like $50 billion. And I expect to see, I think in this year, we will see 100 billion US dollars of the total stablecoin on TRON ecosystem. And I think that's the first of the TRON ecosystem growth. And also we are focused lots of our energy on, first of all, DeFi on TRON network, about like SunSwap and JustLand. We also see a dramatic increase of the volume and the TVL. I think JustLand right now, the total TVL has surpassed around 9 billion US dollars, and for SunSwap is around $700 million. And also we focus on like NFT inscription development, meme coin like token trading. So there's lots of the on-chain activities going on TRON. So we are processing around 5 million transaction with around $15 billion worth of transaction every single day. So that's why I think the 2024 will definitely for a very big year for TRON, and we are definitely committed to that.
Okay, awesome. Really, really cool. So next question, again, directed to Miguel specifically, because of the unique positioning that you have. I think a lot of people are sort of becoming wise to the on-chain analytics tools, Arkham being one of them, that we have available today. If you were, call it a retail investor or just someone that's very, very interested in the cryptocurrency space that was going to try and keep their finger on the pulse when it comes to cryptocurrency markets, which elements of data would you really be watching? What would you be keeping an eye on in particular?
Well, I myself am not too much of a trader. I mostly focus on trying to build businesses and these sorts of things. But for those of our users who are traders or who are some sort of institutional investors, the majority of the time they're actually very focused on exchanges. Right, they're constantly focused on exchanges for two reasons. One, from a sort of general trading perspective, where they try to find an edge in the market, because exchanges right now are the primary venue where people buy and sell. Right, and so they spend a bunch of this time sort of analyzing the order book within exchanges and analyzing everything that actually occurs inside of the trading pairs that they are interested in. But beyond that, they're also looking at the flows. They're looking at the inflow and the outflow of the exchange to determine how many people are moving from cold storage onto an exchange potentially in order to sell, or who are removing from the exchange in order to self-custody, because once they're self-custody, that means they're not selling, right? And so it's overall better for the price. And so I think a bunch of people are very focused on exchanges in general as the primary venues where that trading activity is happening, and therefore is kind of uphill from all of the other price movements, right? The price ends up moving because of everything that's happening around the exchanges and inside of the exchanges. And so that's primarily where I would focus a lot of my time and effort.
Really, really cool answer. It makes perfect sense to sort of go to the heart of where the volumes are taking place and so on and so forth. Almost as just a very brief follow-up question. Obviously, the liquidity depth and the volumes that we see on centralized exchanges are still so incredibly high. Do you see that being the case indefinitely, or are we going to move to a point where, as Justin was saying earlier, decentralized finance and DeFi grows to a point where actually that's the focal point in terms of crypto asset flows?
I think it depends on who you ask. I think that historically speaking, over the past 10 years, exchanges have been dominant as a form of liquidity and as the trading venues for people to get access to large amounts of cryptocurrency with minimal slippage. That being said, there is a bunch of decentralized technology and sort of DeFi projects that are building really cool stuff, and they're making crypto more accessible for people. And while I don't think that they quite match the level of liquidity and trading volume that exists within centralized exchanges, though I think they're starting to get, as an aggregate, I think they're starting to get close. My prediction over time is actually that centralized exchanges in one form or another are going to continue being very big, and more of the crypto native people will move to the more decentralized kind of protocols. I think that a lot of the institutional investors that are coming in now, especially with this new ETF news and so forth, as crypto becomes more mainstream, they're going to continue using what they're used to, right? Centralized companies and businesses where there's a customer service email or a telephone that you can call if something goes wrong in order to place their trades and invest their money. And more crypto people, because of the sort of vision and ethos of crypto, will become disillusioned with crypto exchanges and may want access to, DeFi protocols or decentralized sort of technology, because, that's really what crypto is about. And so my prediction is that the crypto native people will move away from exchanges and more onto DeFi, but all of the newcomers will continue to trade on centralized exchanges.
So now a question for Justin around a topic that I know is very hotly discussed in the blockchain ecosystem at the moment. Justin, can you tell me a little bit about HTX DAO that you recently announced?
Yes, sure. So the HTX DAO we recently announced is basically about it's an experiment to try to decentralize the centralized exchange. As Miguel just said, centralized exchange is like the most important part of the crypto industry, and also, of course, is one of the most centralized part of crypto industry. So our industry is people see us like the decentralized world, right? Like Bitcoin, TRON, like Ethereum, everything is decentralized. You can control your own assets. That's the reason why we joined crypto industry in the first place. But also we have seen cryptocurrency exchange has become the centralized part for crypto industry. There is benefits, but there is also disadvantage of centralization, right? So we see FTX downfall, and we also see empty GOX, and even those two incidents today even have significant impact on the price, right? So we see rumors on empty GOX and FTX will liquidate assets, right? Impact crypto currency price a lot. So that's why I believe we need to see if we have a way to decentralize the centralized exchange in potentially DAO efforts. That's what HTX DAO is doing. So basically, we have DAO token holders everywhere around the globe. So we will have election to elect the representative of the DAO members, and those DAO members will discuss and also in the forum and have this kind of the community efforts to decide it on lots of decision making in the exchange. In terms of custody of the assets, in terms of listing, in terms of operation of the exchange. So I try to, in the future, to give more decision making to the community, rather than the HTX on exchange operators to make those decisions. let's see like a future, right? There's not like a Binance management team to decide it on what Binance is doing. It's more like a BNB holders, on like a BSC network, voting on like what kind of the tokens Binance will listing and what kind of the asset listing, right? For example, like for a specific assets, let's take like 5 secret keys, like who is holding those secret keys? They need to hold those secret keys in a transparency way on Twitter, right? So everybody can see, which I think will significantly basically eliminate all the fraud in our industry, because the majority of the fraud come from our industry is because of a black box operation, right? So the users can't get knowledge of like what kind of the assets the exchange will list, and also they have no idea who is holding the secret key and where is those assets, right? So I think after the proof of reserve, right, is also available on the Arkham and lots of analytic website greatly like increase the transparency of centralized exchange. But I think there's much more efforts we can do here to eliminate all the fraud and make centralized exchange also become like super transparent and an easy way for everybody to trade in the crypto space.
Really, really cool. And a very fascinating concept around the idea that the line between centralized and decentralized doesn't necessarily need to be clear cut forever. There could be a point in the future where it becomes blurred for the better, so to speak.
Yes.
So I suppose my next question, and to some extent, I think around transparency, you've already answered this, but how will, effectively, how will joining HTX DAO benefit HTX Exchange itself? We've spoken about transparency. We've spoken about the extra voice that it's going to give token holders in the decentralized community. What are going to be the advantages to HTX in and of itself?
Yes. First of all, I think it's definitely will increase people's trust on HTX Exchange, because like everyone wants to trade on exchange feels belong to themselves, right? So that's why lots of like democratic countries, when they try to get their citizen join the army, it's much easier than the dictatorship countries, because like every citizen wants to defend their own country, right? Rather than like I have no idea who is command me to fight like a war or something. So that's why I think people and users will love decentralized way to run the exchange, because they can see the most of the where's assets, like who is holding the assets, who is making the decisions, and where the exchange gonna go, right? They will feel like all the transparency. I think that's the first thing. And the second thing of all, I believe if we want to increase or make an exchange to holding hundreds of billions dollars of the assets, even for example like $1 trillion in the future, the structure-wise, it must be a decentralized way to manage funds. Because we can't see in the future like $1 trillion probably holding in like one exchange's owner's secret keys, right? That's too dangerous for everyone. I think this kind of the democratic governance it benefits everybody in the world, and everybody will feel the safety on depositing their money in a decentralized way managed centralized exchange. And also, for example, about like listing process, right? So everyone loves like listing process to be like debate by the community and eventually like vote by the community, like rather than like nobody have no idea, right? And then the asset suddenly like listed on the exchange. So that's why I believe this kind of the transparency way and also decentralized way of the governance and community participation is the key for centralized exchange to thrive. So that's why I'm designing like this way to manage like HTX. Even for example, like after like 10 years, I probably won't like get much involved of the exchange operation anymore. There's gonna still be a very strong community and strong community members to manage the exchange. So that's like what I see how HTX now gonna benefit HTX.
That makes an awful lot of sense. Almost trust and decentralized governance on a scale not really witnessed before, at least in that respect, for sure. So to finish with what I admit is really a pretty broad question and directed to you both as well. I suppose to put it bluntly, what are your biggest goals for 2024?
Yeah, please, Miguel. Yeah.
I think that for us, we've done tremendously over the past, 2 years since launching. Almost 2 years. It's been a year and a half. Now have over 2 million registered users, hundreds of thousands of monthly active users. And as a whole, I want to continue building a platform where people who are interested in the cryptocurrency ecosystem, whether it be trading, research, analysis, consulting, etc., can come onto Arkham in order to understand what's going on in the space. As Justin mentioned multiple times, transparency is something that, despite being inherent to blockchain, has actually been super difficult to find within the cryptocurrency ecosystem. And it's something that as a whole, the community has been working to do better at, right? As a whole, we've run into a lot of different issues and problems where, because of the lack of transparency, despite the technology being built on the blockchain, there are these big downfalls and other sort of catastrophic events that have occurred because people don't actually know what's going on. And so our vision from the beginning with Arkham has been to build a platform where, even if people don't necessarily do things super transparently, the users of our platform are able to discover that activity and discover what is actually, going on behind the scenes of a given project or of an exchange or, any of these different components of the cryptocurrency ecosystem. So I look forward to, over the course of 2024, building more and more features that continue to allow people to do that, including on TRON.
Yes. Yes, for me, I think for the 2024, my biggest goal is just like running things in a decentralized way. So I think the CZ, like left Binance, like really have impact on me. Because I believe, because I see CZ as one of the most important pioneers in our industry for the last 10 years. I believe any centralized operators, eventually, right, they will leave the industry or leave the platform, because not everybody can live forever, right? So that's why I think we need to find a way to operate blockchain exchange in a decentralized way. I think Satoshi set a very good example for every crypto founders, right? So Satoshi leaves Bitcoin probably after 3 years Bitcoin was founded, and today, without CEO, without any centralized founders, Bitcoin actually running very smoothly in the past 10 years after Satoshi left, and it's become $1 trillion now, and also get SEC approval on the ETF, right? So that's why I believe this kind of the centralized way to running everything is super important. So that's why I think for the 2024. That's my goal.
Awesome. So it sounds like really both you guys are going to spend the next 12 months fighting for, I think, decentralization and transparency would probably be the two main tenets there.
Yeah.
And yeah, thank you for joining.